Hi, in this video we are going to learn about the passives or the passive voice and past participle forms while we learn about our body. As a preparation for this activity, I have two questions for you. How do hormones work in your body? Do you know how hormones work? You have heard about them. Do you know how they work? If you don't know, that's fine. I just want you to think about it. Right? The next question is, what happens if they are not doing their job correctly? What happens if our hormones don't work properly? All right, just think about it. Right? Thank you. Now, let's read the following text about the human endocrine system. Okay, let's read it together. The endocrine system is made up of the glands that produce hormones. Glands produce hormones. Hormones are the body's chemical messengers that carry information and instructions from one set of cells to another. Like messengers, carry information. Good. This system is one of the most important of them all, influencing almost every cell, organ, and function in our bodies. Wow. Hormones are released by the endocrine glands into the bloodstream. Okay, they are released into the bloodstream, the stream of blood, our veins and arteries. All the blood circulating in our body carries hormones. Good. Allowing a certain amount of hormones to reach cells in other parts of the body. Okay, certain amount only. Mood, growth, and development, as well as organ function, metabolism, and reproduction can all be controlled by these hormones. Wow, they regulate everything. An unbalanced level of hormones can affect bodily functions, but taking medicine can regulate many of those problems or these problems. So that is actually something very, very important, hormones. I personally didn't know all that about hormones. I just heard about them, but I didn't know that in detail. Let's see if we can understand or remember these facts. Where are hormones produced? I know that. They are produced in the glands. All right. What is the function of hormones? Remember, I said that they act as messengers carrying information from one set of cells of the body to another set of cells of the body. Oof, I feel knowledgeable now. What could hormone imbalance cause? If we have hormone imbalance, what can be the problem? So the text said that an unbalanced level of hormones can affect many bodily functions. So, yep, I understand. It's clear now. Hormones are very important in our body. All right, we are going to use that text to talk about, as I said at the beginning, about passives and past participles. But why do we use passives or the passive voice? Let me tell you something about it. You know that usually we have in a sentence, we have a subject, verb, and an object. The subject is the one that performs the action described by the verb, and the object receives the action, right? So when we say, I ate the apple, so I am the subject, and I perform the action of eating, and the object is the apple. So subject, verb, object. But sometimes we may place the object first. So in that case, it will be the apple first. And then we need to adjust the sentence or the grammar or the structure of the sentence to say the same message, but placing the emphasis on the object which was mentioned first. So we would say, the apple was eaten by me. All right? So let me show you some examples from the text, and let's put this into practice. It says, hormones are released by the endocrine glands. Hormones are released. So what releases the hormones? The endocrine glands. So that is actually the doer of the action, the endocrine glands. And what do they release? Hormones. But if we mention the hormones first, we are using the passive voice. That is it. We mention the object or the recipient of the action first, and that makes a passive voice. Why passive voice? Because the object is there passively receiving the action of the verb, not doing anything very active there. So that is why we use that term passive voice. Hormones are released by the endocrine system, the endocrine glands. Now, if we wanted to transform that into an active voice, we would say, in the regular way, endocrine glands release hormones. All right? So, let me show you another example. The endocrine system is made up of glands. So, that is a rephrasing of a phrase or a sentence in the active voice. Glands make up the endocrine system. What do glands do? They perform the action, making up the endocrine system. They compose the endocrine system. So that is how the passive voice works. We mention the object first, and we accommodate the structure of the sentence to express that idea. All right? For the passive voice, we need past participles. That means that we use, for example, makeup. If we want to use makeup in the passive voice, we use the past participle form of make, which is made. If you look at the previous example, release is the verb, but we need the past participle form for the passive voice, and that would be released. Let me review with you what the past participle is. You remember that we have regular and irregular verbs? Well, release is an example of a regular verb. Why? Because the base form or the present form, let's say, is release. The past simple form is released, ending in ed, and the past participle form is released, ending in ed. That means that regular verbs form their past and past participle form, ending in ed. All right? But there are some verbs that are irregular. Irregular because, for example, make doesn't end in ed in the past form or the past participle form. We don't say made, we say made, and the past participle form is made. Some irregular verbs have all the three forms different. For example, the verb take. Take in the present form is take, like that. In the past form is took, and the past participle form is taken. For the passive voice, we need the past participle form, this third form here. All right? Let me show you one final example before we move into more practice. Organ function, metabolism, and reproduction can all be controlled by these hormones. Can all be controlled. So, what controls those organs and metabolism and reproduction? Hormones. So the doer of the action is hormones, but we mention the recipient of the action first. That would be a transformation of a sentence in the active voice, which would be hormones can control organ function, metabolism, and reproduction. All right? So this idea of using the passive voice is very, very common, especially when we are talking about academic subjects in which the subject or the doer, let's say, the doer of the action is not necessary. Sometimes it is not necessary to specify who does something. We just say what happens. For example, when we say the human genome was discovered, so we don't necessarily need to know who did it, but in science, what is important is what was found. That's why the passive voice is very common in academic texts. So the practice that I have for you is the following. Transform the following sentences by writing them in the passive voice. So they will be in the active voice, and you're going to write them in the passive voice. You're going to need, remember, the past participle form of the verbs there. All right, so please pause my video, complete the activity, and in a moment I am going to show you some answers. All right, pause my video right now, please. All right, thank you very much. I hope that you did pause my video, that you completed the activity, and here I have some sample answers that a student wrote. All right, we have the secretion of enzymes into the digestive system is regulated by the pancreas. Secretion of enzymes. Good. The hormones necessary for the reproductive process are released by the ovarian gland. Okay? The next sentence. Almost every cell, organ, and function in our body is influenced by the endocrine system. We could also say are influenced, but since we say every cell, organ is influenced, especially because those words that start with every, any, and no, like anybody, everybody, nobody, are singular. All right? So that's why we have is influenced. That is, let's say, more standard. All right? If we say the amount of each hormone released, the amount, oh, that is singular. So we need to say the amount of each hormone released is regulated by the endocrine system. And finally, we have a verb phrase here with can. The answer would be the body can be affected, even harmed by too much or too little of any hormone. Okay? Remember, let's say the subject, the original subject was too much or too little of any hormone can affect that. So the amount can affect the body. So we can say the body, in the passive voice, the body can be affected by too much or too little of any hormone. I am going to pause my video so that you can listen to the pronunciation of these sentences by a native speaker, and your job is for you to listen and practice after her in this case. So listen and practice your pronunciation, please.
The secretion of enzymes into the digestive system is regulated by the pancreas. The hormones necessary for the reproductive process are released by the ovarian gland. Almost every cell, organ, and function in our body is influenced by the endocrine system. The amount of each hormone released is regulated by the endocrine system. The body can be affected, even harmed, by too much or too little of any hormone.
All right. Thank you very much for practicing your pronunciation. And remember that we studied passive voice or passives, and especially that we are using the past participle form of verbs for this way of speaking in English, where we place the emphasis on who receives the action and not on who performs the action. Thank you very much, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.